What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Gridiron Uncensored podcast. And we are continuing to roll along with our season previews. We're, really deep inside of the Big 12, if you will, right now. And I really love this conference. I love what's going on with it. And these teams tonight, again, some disappointment last season. Some shows promise for this year. So let's go ahead and get into them. We got Colorado first on there. Huge topic this offseason. Dion and them, I swear to God, it's always something in the media with them, whether it be attacks from the media or of their own doing. I don't give a damn. It's still something that, causes issue. And, let's see if they can't get over that, get out of that, and maybe go to a bowl game this year, because there's some fans of theirs talking they're going to compete for the conference. So I don't know. Let's dig in on Colorado, boys. Starting off, they're having over-under of 5.5. Last season it was an over-under of 3. So, I mean, at least that Vegas is liking them a little bit more. And they do return 71% production. Now, that isn't just from their team from last year. Remember, production ratings, this is from Conley, Bill Conley. This is people that you brought into that have produced in the league. So it's not just their guys. It's other people that are now on this team. So last year's stuff doesn't really matter when you look at the transfer portal that Colorado, again, has had. They've had changes in staff. Trevor, if you want to talk their changes a little bit, and then we can hit portal.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a few changes. Nothing. I mean, I guess you could say it's major. I mean, it's a little surprising to me that they retained Pat Shurmur as the offensive coordinator. He stayed on. There was talk that they were thinking about bringing in former Tampa Bay Bucks OC Byron Leftwich to replace him, but that didn't end up happening. And Pat Shurmur, at least for this year, is going to be the offensive coordinator for the Buffs. Obviously, they brought in Robert Livingston, who's also from the NFL, to do the defense and be the defensive coordinator. I find it very interesting that he's going to be the D coordinator, because to my knowledge, he has only worked as not a coordinator capacity over the last 12 years in the NFL. He's been with the Cincinnati Bengals. Not exactly. I mean, recently, granted, they've been great, but let's just be honest. Cincinnati Bengals is not something you really want to, idolize to be like what's his face, guys? Help me out. His quarterback. Yeah, Joe Burrow, Cincinnati Bengals. Well, look, I can't even remember the damn quarterback, and Joe Burrow's pretty damn good. So whatever. But I mean, hopefully Robert Livingston will be able to bring a new look to the defense and maybe actually stop somebody. That'd be great.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do on the sides of the ball, the new coordinators. Blake, what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, this is what I'm seeing. They finished last in the Pac-12 last year, and they didn't learn their lesson because they brought in they was built off of transfers last year. And it just kind of shows to me that you have to have some sort of like baseline foundation continuity from season to season. You can't just go on a full-blown transfer portal team and be successful. It's just there's no chemistry there, and it's not going to work. It's like the 71% production. I don't think that's going to benefit them really, just because the guys haven't really played together. And I mean, like, they're replacing their entire offensive line, which was their problem last year.
Yeah.
I mean, Shadur, but also some of it's Shadur Sanders too, like trying to extend the play, pad stats. You've got to use the transfer portal to plug in key positions. You can't just build your team off of it. They've got to improve defensively, force turnovers. They didn't do too good at that last year. I think like maybe the first 3 or 4 games they did. I mean, that was when they was good. Everybody was riding them. I think they snuck in the top 25. But I mean, if they're going to be successful, it starts with the offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%. And they did attempt to address that with the 5-star recruit that they got on the offensive line. They also addressed the defensive line with the youngster Samuel Okunlola. Akunlola from Pitt, a D lineman, and also Quincy Wiggins from LSU, both D linemen, both fairly big guys, 6'4" and 6'5", respectively, 245, 265. That'll help shore up the defensive line a little bit. But I don't know, guys, in the Big 12, they're going to run, I feel like, against way bigger offensive lines. So I feel like they're going to have to beef up a little bit if those guys are going to end up actually starting on the D line. I don't know. Again, I'm going to reiterate what Blake just said, and that is that you cannot build a winning program off of transfers alone. Now, don't get me wrong. They do have, what's his name? Jordan Seaton. That's who I couldn't think of his name before, but Jordan Seaton, the offensive lineman coming in, 5-star, which more than likely he's going to be day one starter.
Yeah.
More than likely, just because of everything that they lost. And they did pick up, obviously, I just talked about the 2 D-line transfers. They also have Brandon Davis Swain, 6'3", 263, freshman coming out of West Bloomfield, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
He was the 5th best, 36th best D lineman in the country. And they also have another D lineman coming from Georgia. He's a 3-star. So, I mean, they're definitely trying to address it. But look, they got 5 recruits this year, folks. 5.
In the 2025 class?
In the 2024 class coming in. They have 5 total enrollees and then 6 signed letter of intents. And that is it. That's it for 2024.
Yeah.
So obviously, like Blake just said, they're hard on the transfer portal, but we already know that Deion's not really a recruiter. He doesn't want to recruit. He just wants to bring kids in and plug them and play them. So I don't know.
No, I mean he's not really doing in-home visits. We know that he does some recruiting, but it's nothing crazy. He gets some big talent. I think just one name alone will sell half that. But really, obviously, like we said, the portal is their biggest thing. That's what they live and die off of.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at, let's talk a little bit about it. 2024, you're bringing in 42 players and you're losing 41. Now, I mean, they're getting some talent though. I'm not saying they're not, because they got some players in the portal, guys that are going to start. You mentioned Seaton out of the recruiting. He's going to be a day one starter for their O-line. And really, they've got weapons all over their offense. Like this is a pretty loaded offense, quarterback, wide receiver, but you need to see if the offensive line can gel. And running back position, I think, is in trouble. They lost a lot of trouble. They lost a lot of trouble. They lost a lot of talent, so now they're in trouble. They do have Dalen Hayden coming in from Ohio State, which is going to help. But, I mean, you lose Edwards. I know their fans were like, "Oh, he's not a huge loss." No, that dude was really talented. I liked what he did last year for you, and now he goes to Kansas State, who you're going to have to deal with in conference. So I don't know. I like who they've brought in, but like you guys have said, will they mesh? Will they gel? Last year was not a great testimony to that, but I do think they brought in better players this year, and that receiver core is going to be nasty. In my opinion.
For sure.
But defense, you got to get better on defense too. So,
but to your point is that there's so much on the defense and offensive line that's shuffling around right now. It doesn't matter who you have at running back. If you don't have a cohesive offensive line, you're not going to have a good running game. It's just impossible. No matter, I mean, you could have Barry Sanders back there, even though he did make his offensive line look great. But, but even so, I mean, my point, it's just you cannot have a makeshift offensive line every single year and expect to have consistent good running game. And guys, in the Big 12, they have much bigger offensive linemen in the Big 12 than they did in the Pac-12. It was more lean, more quick, more spread out offenses. Where I feel like Big 12, I mean, don't get me wrong, some of the teams in the Big 12 are like that.
Yeah.
However, there are teams that are okay with doing smash mouth and just ramming it right down your throat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this team, comes together. defense, a couple guys that I do like that they brought in. Obviously, they brought in a shit ton. Preston Hodge, I'm curious to see what he's going to do. But one I think that's underrated is Hill Green. Trevor, you'll recognize him. He played at Michigan, and I thought he really was a strong player. And Michigan, I say we because obviously Trevor and I are fans, lost him to Charlotte after some coaching changes, and then now he's coming from Charlotte to Colorado. But I thought he was pretty talented at Michigan. So if you can shore up some defensive position, I'll call them a danger team because, again, we just don't know until it actually happens. But I don't think they're going to win the conference. I don't think they're going to win, 10 games. I don't know. What you guys want to look at the schedule? What anything else on Colorado? I know there's so much change, man. It's just hard to say until you see it.
Yeah. All I can say is that right out the gate, they are in dangerous trouble. On August 29th, North Dakota State comes walking into Boulder, and they could be walking right out with a win because that is one dangerous team. I mean, I don't know how many Division II national championships has North Dakota State have won. Like they're a perennial power in the Division II side of things, and I think at minimum it's a great first test. At worst case, it's your very first loss.
Yeah. It's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't type thing, man. It's because if you lose this game, you're gonna get shit on. But if you win it, it's just North Dakota State. They're the FCS.
Yeah, it's kind of a lose-lose situation because if you play good, it's par for the course. That's the team you should be. But if you lose, it'll be the loss of the season first game out.
Yeah, Blake, what are you thinking on the schedule, brother?
It doesn't get any easier after that. Nebraska is going to be a tough game. Colorado State was tough for them last year. Baylor, I mean, you can't sleep on Baylor. Central Florida, I mean, they're going to be a contender. Kansas State, tough. The easiest game I see, honestly, after is probably Arizona or Cincinnati. All the other games, I mean, not many coin flips.
Yeah, and they've got a 5 again. Their over/under is 5.5, guys, and so they're going to need these wins early. You've got to go try and beat Nebraska, but it's in Memorial Stadium. They're very much excited about this season in Nebraska with Raiola at quarterback. They've got talent. So it's not going to be what it was last year when you were playing Jeff Sims. This is not easy, and you're looking to get at least a bowl game. You got to beat 4 out of your first 5, and you got to beat Cincinnati, Texas Tech. The rest of them, I hope to God for an upset. I think their offense is going to carry them pretty far. I really do. They've got a lot of weapons. Out wide, especially Shador, but I'm worried about the run game and still how that offense. I don't know. It's just until you see it.
Yeah, I just feel like that they are with some of these teams, maybe not at the beginning of the season, but once you get into the Baylor, UCF, and the Arizona games, even Texas Tech, maybe even, I feel like that they are going to they're going to have to figure out a way to eat some clock. They're going to have to buy their defense a breather at some point in time because they cannot – their defense won't be able to hold up against some of those offenses because of the way they play for 4 quarters if their offense is just continually just throwing bombs and stuff like that. It's great to do high-scoring games. It just destroys the defense's will to even fight because you're just consistently throwing them back out there after maybe – 3 minutes of a break, and then they're back out trying to defend for another 4 or 5 minute drive because a lot of these teams aren't really deep ball teams, but they will spread you out and make you run all over the field. So they have to have a running game. They have to have a way to chew some clock out.
Yeah, so that'll remain to be seen until really the Nebraska game. But then North Dakota State, that's a test. Don't overlook it. I don't know. We'll see what happens with Colorado. Guys, good to move on to Houston. Yeah, and Colorado fans, let us know why we're wrong according to you, because I've seen a lot of stuff saying you guys are winning the Big 12, so I'm shocked at that one. Houston, this is a team that has obviously done a lot of changes. Trevor will bring you up to speed on that one, but 2023 was not good. They didn't. I mean, it was an embarrassing, really, first season in the Big 12. But look, they've got a lot going for them into 2024. Coaching changes, new players. So, Trevor, what you got for us on changes? Obviously, Fritz, but
yeah, we got Willie Fritz. He obviously brought in
yeah.
Kevin Barberry or Barbe, I guess. He's the offensive coordinator. He comes in, he joined the team this season. He comes to Houston after spending 2023 as Mississippi State's offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. They brought in, let's see here, they got their defensive coordinator, which is, I'm going to go on a limb. Sheil Wood, I think is how you pronounce his first name. Man, these names are getting me this season already. Already this season. But he comes to Houston after one season at Tulane's defensive coordinator and linebackers coach. So that I feel like so far as that goes, those two offensive coordinators are good. They did retain one or two of the coaches from the previous administration. Derek Sherman, he's the assistant head coach and wide receivers coach, which he's from Houston. Crap, nope, wrong guy. My bad. Nope, that was the other guy. Shoot. Anyway, whatever. God, so many coaching changes. It's killing me. Lord have mercy. Anyway, after putting a foot in my mouth, so go ahead, Houston fans, let me have it. It's fine. I understand completely.
I couldn't find any on Twitter. So
Derek Sherman, let me correct myself. Derek Sherman did spend the last 2 seasons with Tulane, also as their wide receivers coach and running backs coach. So that's a good addition as well. And there's a few other coaches that joined the team that are, really. I like the staff that they've built up to this point. It remains to be seen on how well the team takes to all the new philosophies, because that's going to be the huge kicker. I mean, they brought in brand new quarterbacks and passing game coordinator Sean Bell, and he was the Baylor quarterbacks coach, tight ends coach, offensive line coach, offensive analyst for Baylor. So from 2017 to 2023, he was moved up the rung through Baylor's football system. So that could be, he definitely knows what he's doing, and he's, been at each level in a football program. So I think Houston's got a good football staff. It's just a matter of if they can implement the system fast enough where all the kids are up to speed with it so that they can utilize the full playbook come week 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Trevor. I like the staff that's getting put together in Houston, but I think it's going to be a long season this year for them. I don't like the way the team is really coming together around everything. There's a lot of changes taking place. They do have Donovan Smith, and he is a monster at quarterback. He is a giant, but he threw 13 picks last year. So, I mean, that's got to be corrected. New coach, new system. They're replacing 4 out of 5 offensive linemen. That's with the changes in the Big 12. There's a lot of teams with a lot to prove. And I mean, they're just one of those teams. I mean, we don't really have a feel for them. We're not going to know until the season kicks off. Defensively, they did get some decent transfers in Brian Massey from SMU and Hershey McLaurin from West Virginia. But again, the names only mean so much. They got to work in the system.
Yeah, I agree with that. But it's crazy to me that some of the transfers that went out, it really hurt Houston a lot they have I count four stars that left the program, all for major programs. One went to Oregon, Texas, the U, and then Tyler Johnson went over to Colorado, and he's an inside offensive lineman. But I reiterate what Blake was saying is like I like what they're doing with the transfer portal, but I think they're going to have to look. I don't know how you guys feel about Houston. I feel like they should be dominating the Houston market for recruits. And I think they have missed the boat tremendously on that recruiting pipeline that they could do just inside the city of Houston. And I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I mean, they have most of their recruits are outside of the state of Texas.
Interesting. Yeah.
Recruiting wise, I agree.
That came from Texas, but there is one kid from Houston, the city of Houston. The other ones, they have 1, 2, 3, 4 recruits, five recruits out of the 18 recruits that they have coming in for 2024. I feel like if you're a Houston program, you need to dominate the state of Texas before you can start looking outside of Texas.
Sure.
And that's just my opinion on it. I don't know how you guys feel about it. But yeah, they're 33 and the transfer rank 52nd in the overall or in the recruiting rank. So yeah, I don't know. I think they missed the boat on recruiting, but I think Willie Fritz recruits well. And I think that he can turn the ship around when it comes to that.
Yeah, I'll say for me, recruiting, I'm give Fitz a little time, let the man cook, if you will. The portal to me is the biggest thing in a year one coach, and then building those relationships. Obviously, he's got relationships across the South from his time at Tulane. But I mean, what you need to do in year one is really try to get in as many guys as you can and just try to build something that fits your style. And what we've seen with Houston was that air raid, that trying to sling it around.
Yeah, it's just. I think the Tulane style of offense, like his style of offense, I think fits perfect for what they would do in Houston. I think
exactly. I mean, you take what you built at Tulane; they were always a contender in their conference and would upset, right in the mix to upset Power 5, Power 4 teams because they could run the football. If you can't run the football, you are not going to win a lot of football games. I don't care who you are. You might upset somebody. But you're not going to be contending in the tops every single year. You might get a one-off. That's wonderful. No, you want consistency, and I think Fritz is going to do that. And hit this portal class, I know they lost some good guys, like Isaiah Hamilton. They lost him, after spring ball, which sucked for their back end, but they still have some players back there. You mentioned Jamari Colwell. He went to Oregon, I believe. But the guys that came in, I think they've got some talent. And you guys mentioned them. But I think what's really going to help them is a healthy Donovan Smith. He's recovered from his surgery. They got Zion Chris coming in from Louisiana as a backup just in case. But I think you mentioned, turnovers, Blake. With this new system, you're wanting to run the football. You've got guys that you think can do that, and you give Smith a little bit more time to, take the pressure off him. I think you could see a totally new type of team from this Houston team. And like you said, again, we won't know until we see it. But They have an over-under of 4.5. So, I mean, I can see why there's no, the Vegas has them at that. Like you said, new staff, new players. Will they gel? But I can see why there's optimism for their program. And that's what it's all about is kickstarting that. Defense, I mean, you lost a lot in the front seven, so I mean there's problems going to be there, but backfield I think should be fine. I got nothing else on that. You want to talk schedule whenever you guys, or Trevor? What are you thinking?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I'm curious to see how some of these these 2 wide receivers that both came from the University of Tulsa. I'm curious to see how they fit into the plans for University of Houston. They're smaller, but I mean maybe they're not well. One's smaller, the other one's 6'1", 192. So he's a little bit bigger body. But like you said, I mean, if they can play the dink and dunk, quote unquote, game manager, which is not a derogatory term, But if they can turn him into a game manager and just kind of get it to the wide receivers, let them cook, get it to the running back, let them do it, and just chew some clock, I think they're going to be in a lot more games. And that kind of leads me into talking about the schedule a little bit.
Yeah.
And they start out with UNLV, which, by God, do not sleep on UNLV because they will come in and ruin the season really quick. They don't mess around usually, but then you got to go to Norman and play Oklahoma. And I feel like those are probably to start the season outside of, some big games, obviously like the Michigan-Texas game, for example, or, some of those early real big matchups. I feel like this is a very tough start for a team that's in such a big transition with UNLV to start and then Oklahoma. I feel like that's tough. I don't know what you guys think, but and then it doesn't really get too much easier. I'm going to reiterate. I really do think the Big 12 is going to beat the living crap out of each other.
Yeah, I agree. Again, you look at it, Oklahoma, they lost to Rice last year, and you play Rice again this season. So, that's in the back of their mind. Obviously, again, new coach, new team, new system. You should go out and beat Rice. But keep that chip on your shoulder. Hey, they kicked our ass last year. Let's handle them. And then you got Cincinnati. We think they're solid offense. I think their problems on defense. You should go out and beat them. Maybe at least a toss up. Iowa State's going to be tough. TCU should be a tough team. With some problems, but I think they're going to be better than they were last year. And then you play Kansas, Utah, K-State, and to finish, Arizona, which I like Arizona. Baylor's a better team in my opinion. And then to me, you should toss up game against BYU. You should probably beat them.
Yeah, but it's in Utah in late November. So
that's true. That's true.
So there's that factor as well. It's not just when you play Baylor. It's not just that you play Baylor. It's when you're playing Baylor or BYU.
Yeah. No, I agree. Blake, what do you think on schedule, man? I feel like it's kind of tough.
Yeah, those last 8. You could go 1-7 in those. After the Cincinnati game.
Yeah,
that'd be a tough end of the season there. BYU is probably the most winnable game at the end of that stretch there.
Yeah, like you said, you got to deal with the weather too, so we'll see. I can see why it's at 4.5. Let Willie Fritz do his thing. I like what they're doing in the portal. I just want to see if they gel, because if they come out and they hang with Oklahoma or they upset Oklahoma, okay, hold on, this Houston team might actually be a problem going through the 2024 season. Not saying they're going to win the conference or anything, but they might knock off some teams they're not supposed to in year one of the Fritz era.
Hey, Brandon, what was the over-under for him? I didn't hear if you said it or not.
4.5. 4.5.
I don't know. What are you guys saying? Do you think it's an over and under situation for Houston?
I think they can get to 4. They've got to pull some sort of upset on some team. Like, if I had to say right now, I'd say Rice, Cincinnati, BYU are all fairly winnable games, and probably Baylor too. But to get to that 5th, they're going to have to beat like UNLV, TCU, Iowa State, and those are tougher ones.
Those are tough ones. Yeah. See, I think I want to say over, but
yeah,
I don't know if I see an over just yet. But that being said, like, some of these teams, we don't really know what they're going to be. Might be not what we think they are.
Yeah, it's tough. I think right now I'll say I think they get 5. I think they upset somebody. I don't know. I just like Willie, so we'll say.
I like what he did in Tulane, so I really hope he kind of carries that into Houston, because I loved what Houston was doing back in the day when they were talked about a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, he has a big opportunity. Houston's a huge market. And if he does a lot of things in the community, I feel like he could turn that program around really quickly.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited to see what he does. But prepare for a tough season just in case, guys. Let's go ahead and jump on to a team that should be contending for the conference championship. There's a lot of hype around this team. Now, again, when I say should be contending, there's like 5 teams that fit that mold in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Maybe 6. I mean, there's a lot of teams. But Iowa State is one that, like, they come out, they have an over-under of 7.5. They return 86% of their production from last year on a squad that was 7-6. Lost some really tight games. And then last year they were 79th overall on defense, 79th offense, 50th defense. Really a lot of tight games outside the Oklahoma game where you got absolutely smoked. So I'm curious to see how this 2024 goes. Matt Campbell needs a strong year. It's a lot of, middling kind of. They had the one really good season in 2020, and then it was like back and forth. They've gone to bowl games, which is great. Got over 6 wins. Let's see what they can do this season with all this production. You've got to make a point this year. I mean, what any changes, Trevor, that they've gone through?
The only real major change that I think is notable is that even though it's a promotion from within, however, Taylor Mosier, in his 9th season, he's in his 9th season on the Cyclone staff. However, this will be his first season as the offensive coordinator. He was previously tight ends coach, but yeah, this will be his first go at being the man, being the offensive coordinator, calling the plays and whatnot. He is going to keep the role of doing tight ends coach, but he's also going to be the offensive coordinator. So it should be interesting to see what his philosophy is and how he wants to approach the offense.
Mm-hmm.
Since really he's kind of, I don't want to say untested, because I mean he's been coaching in the system. However, every offensive coordinator, regardless if it's your first year or if you're just moving from, you change some wrinkles in your offense one way or the other.
Yeah.
Maybe verbiage, maybe changing that. So you don't know how big of a change it will be for the players either. So,
yeah. Blake, what you think?
I really like them. They're one of my top 3 teams in the Big 12. The Rocco, is it Becht?
Yeah.
How you would pronounce that name? He's a solid quarterback coming back. He's got weapons. Jaden Higgins, senior wide receiver. Benjamin Brommer, 6'7" tight end.
Yes.
I mean, and then how you saw about the returning production. They're returning 17 of 22 starters, and it's the most in the country out of all of college football. So, I mean, if we've ever talked about a team that has to do it this year, it's got to be Iowa State, because they're going to lose a lot of these guys. This is probably one of the better teams that Matt Campbell's had since he's been here, and he's really got to do something with his squad, and I think he can. I think this year should be a good year for them if everybody stays healthy.
Yeah, and we talk real quick. What you brought in, or you have a lot of returning guys. You only bring in 7 from the portal, but you don't really need that much. You lose 22, but when you look at who they lost, nothing really stands out as significant. Maybe Daryl Simmons on the O-line. It always sucks losing depth, but you go on and get somebody from Wisconsin. That's a big body dude. Trevor, sorry, what were you going to say, buddy?
I was going to piggyback off of that with the kid from Wisconsin, but they also brought in Jalen Travis, also an offensive tackle, 6'9", 315 pounds from Princeton. I mean, he's only rated as a 3-star, but I mean, the guy's a monster.
Yeah.
And he was at Princeton, so I mean, he's got a bit of brains on him. So, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, and that's what you want in your O-line. When you want them to be smart,
you want them to be smart, intelligent, be able to pick up a blitz or something like that. And if he's going to be an offensive tackle, they're definitely going to need a big body with the edge rushers that some of these teams have in the Big 12 they're going to be a problem for some teams.
Yeah, so I'm excited for this team. Like you guys mentioned, I mean, just returning that much talent, that much production, starters that were already on the team last year. They know how to work with each other. You promote from within. We've seen teams do that and have it work. So like you said, Beck's, he's got talent around him on offense. The offensive line should be solid. This has the makings of a team that should be right in the contention for it. I think the defense, really the biggest thing for them, just get more pressure on quarterbacks. That's what I want to see from them. I know last year, was not great. It wasn't bad. Like you said, so many close losses. Losing to Ohio, losing to Iowa. You got to beat Iowa, man. I guess it depends on this defense to me in the front, and if they can push them, because that's what's going to take them to the next level and to be the contenders. Because you're talking playoff. If you win the Big 12, you're going to be a third or fourth seed in the playoff. That's huge. Matt Campbell, go do it, man. Let's see what you got this year, and shut up the noise from the outside, because people are talking like, hey, he can't get it done. He can't win the big games. I don't know. Anything else about this team, guys?
Not on the transfer portal side, but I'll tell you what, with the schedule, the way it lines up, man, I mean, I understand why people are talking, because the schedule seems like it lines up pretty nicely for them,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, other than maybe Iowa and Utah, I feel like they could potentially be favorites in every other game. Maybe Kansas maybe be a problem, but
the only other game I'm concerned about for them is at West Virginia in October. If they can get past Iowa early, they have all season to, form that unity. And, Utah, Kansas State to finish out the season is tough, especially going to Utah. But aside from those two games, if they can get past Iowa and West Virginia early on, they should be well formed and ready to roll late season when they go to Utah and Kansas State.
And look, like we talked about Iowa, this defense is going to be strong again. Let's see. This is going to be a great test for this offense. And because if you can go out and handle Iowa, look, I'm not worried about their offense, okay? But their defense, if you can handle them, then that shows signs of, okay, you're going to be trouble. And like you said, West Virginia, just don't let people sneak up on you. Don't let UCF trip you up. Yep. Don't let Texas Tech trip you up, or Baylor. But outside of that, Utah and Kansas State, those are going to be tough to finish.
Yeah, the key word for the Cyclones this year is consistency. Be consistent every game and just do what you need to do to win, but don't get outside of your identity, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Because if you go outside of that, that's when usually teams find holes in what you're trying to do. So
exactly.
But I think they have if they get, like you guys said, if they can get past Iowa and take care of that defense, that puts a whole different level of confidence in Iowa State going forward for the rest of the season.
Absolutely. That is a must-win game. And even if you lose it, you can win your conference. I don't give a damn. You need to win against Iowa, beat that team, and you're going to see a lot of hype surrounding this team going into the rest of 2024. Boys, anything else on these teams tonight before we close it down?
No, that pretty much does it for me, man.
Yeah, I'm excited again. We mentioned it. Big 12 is going to be exciting. There's a lot of teams that can toss and turn a season. They can upset you. Some teams are going to get knocked off by teams that they shouldn't. But again, a lot of these teams feel like they're going to be pretty decent. A lot of changes going on. So we'll see what happens with the Big 12 and these teams. Guys, make sure you follow, you like, subscribe, share, comment, especially on YouTube. If you like what you hear, let us know. If you don't like what you hear, let us know why you don't like it. Maybe change our minds. Obviously we're not insiders. We're just, we research, we read on these teams, and we try to give you our best idea on what these teams are going to look like. So we thank you for listening. Again, please share and subscribe. We hope you guys have a great evening. I'll take care. Good night.
Later.